Okay, somebody recently asked me to look at a video about a gal that was doing a carnivore diet for several years and actually ended up having a heart attack. Now, this is on a channel, Kelly Hogan's channel. Some of you guys may know her. Kelly is a long-term carnivore advocate. I think she's been doing a carnivore diet now for roughly about 15 or 16 years. I met her for the first time in Tennessee last year. Very lovely person. Anyway, she interviewed another friend of mine, Dr. Philovadia, who is a cardiothoracic surgeon, about this particular situation. So just to summarize, this is a 69-year-old woman. So, she's up there in age. She's been doing a carnivore diet for about 5 years. But prior to that, she'd already had significant cardiovascular disease known. She had significant calcification. I think she said she was in the 82nd percentile for coronary artery calcium. So she'd already had this sort of environment to cause heart disease. What that was could be a number of things. And the question was, well, what do you do in that situation? And some of the things that came to light was that this woman continued to see progression of her coronary disease with repeated calcium scores, and nothing was really changed. She just kind of continued on. I don't think maybe the physician taking care of her had an interest in the fact that her coronary score was going up. Maybe they did. Doesn't sound like that was really addressed. And some of the points that Philovadia bring up, which largely I agree with, I think, for the most part, is, this person could have ongoing inflammatory issues due to, potentially environmental things. It could be that she still was, fairly insulin resistant, which certainly is possible. And we talk about, what are the things, how do we assess insulin resistance? There are lab markers. You can do things like a HOMO-IR score, which involves a fasting insulin and a fasting glucose. There are things like the triglyceride glucose index, which Phil did not mention, which again, triglycerides and glucose can kind of give you a idea. There's a formula for that. You can also look at the waist to height ratio. And I think that's very, in my view, that's a very telling one, because most people have access to that. All you need is a tape measure, and you need to know what your height is. And you should be looking ideally for a waist of around 46% of your height. And so if you are 6 feet tall at 72 inches, your waist should be roughly about 34 inches, somewhere in that neighborhood, measured at the belly button while relaxed. Got my garbage truck coming here, so it may make some noise right now. In fact, I'm gonna pause this so I can not have to listen to that. Truck's gone now. So if you are still insulin resistant, and honestly, probably the easiest way to assess this is look at your belly size. You still got a belly, you're probably insulin resistant. So that has to be a priority of just getting rid of that excessive belly fat. And that can take diet, that can take sleep, that can take exercise, that can take not being sedentary. There's a lot of things that go into that. The other thing that was discussed was, the concept of ongoing inflammatory issues, and there's ways to assess that with laboratory assessments. They mentioned the high sensitivity C-reactive protein, which is, an acute phase reaction. Is pretty sensitive, pretty decent test. What might drive that? And you have to remember that even if your diet is dialed in and your sleep's dialed in, and you do a lot of these things, there are still, potential issues within the environment. Let's say you live in a really polluted city. I mean, that's a potential concern for some people. So as much as I am a proponent of, low carb ketogenics and carnivore diets for the mitigation of many diseases, because that clearly is occurring, and I think it's a wonderful tool for that. We also have to be aware that there are a number of things that impact that outside of diet. You think about our environment, how we interface with the environment. Where's the biggest interaction point? And most people don't realize this, but you think about our skin. How much skin is exposed to the environment? Well, our skin really is designed to keep stuff out. We get into trouble when we cut it, and then there's a portal of entry. But generally, even though we have a large surface area, our skin is designed to keep things out. Now we compare that to our gut. Now, as some of you may know, our gut, inside of my mouth, my intestines, all the way to the back end, are completely external to our human body. This is actually outside our body technically. And the surface area of our gut, when you take into all the villi, microvilli, ends up being about the size of a tennis court, which is significant. And on top of that, our gut is designed to bring things in. You think about it, if our gut was like our skin, we couldn't bring things in, we would starve to death because we got to bring in those nutrition molecules and liquid and things like that. And so the gut actually is more, it's easier to get things into our body through the gut. The lungs to some degree are similar, not to the extent the gut is, but it's just a smaller surface area. So the problem becomes, what are the other things that could expose you to irritants or inflammatory things? Could it be through the skin? There are things that get through the skin. There are solvents and other things that do absorb through the skin. There are, obviously things that we ingest and inhale. So those things could potentially be something to be sorted out. Now, some of those things I can't control that I live in the middle of LA. I mean, I live there and I don't have if that's your situation, you don't have a choice with it. So you have to keep that in mind. And so when it comes to, as Phil suggested, some people, maybe lipid lowering is the answer here. It's just one of those things where it's, in many ways it's nuanced, because a lot of physicians are just basically, we'll just put you on a drug and that's the answer for everything, when it ultimately becomes down to much, much more than that in many cases. And I think that one of the other things we have to realize is, while I believe a carnivore diet is generally healthy for most people, all of us are going to pass away at some point. There's no getting around that. I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you think you've got the solution to immortality. In my view, no one does. No one will escape that. And so the real question is, this is a 69-year-old person with known significant heart disease. And if you were to compare that person at 64 when she started this, to a cohort of similar, patients with cardiac disease over a period of 5 years, what would be the percentage of people that would develop heart disease? And I suspect it's probably significant, to have an event at that level. If you're in the 82nd percentile for cardiovascular disease at age 64, probably a very large percent of those people would go on to develop heart disease. And is this event less likely or more likely because they're on carnivore? And, I suspect it's probably, the same or less, probably most likely, but it'll be interesting to see. Anyway, so check out the video, Kelly Hogan, if you want to watch this Phil Elevate. It's about an hour long. I did listen to it a little bit last night and then finished it up this morning because somebody asked me to do that and comment on that. And so, again, I think it makes sense to, like I said, get that gut down. That is incredibly important. If you're a guy walking around with a big old beer belly, I don't care what else is going on. Get rid of that thing. You got to put in the work, put in the time, diet, exercise, sleep, stress management, so on and so forth. Get some of this other information. I'm a big fan of serial examinations of cardiac imaging, because I can tell you, is this thing progressing? Is it regressing? Is it staying the same? At the very least, you want it to progress minimally, stay the same. Or in some cases, we actually have seen some evidence of regression, which I think is quite interesting to see. All right, guys, let me know what you think about this situation, what your thoughts are. Go check it out if you don't know Kelly Hogan. She's got a wonderful channel. She's a wonderful person. Phil's a good guy as well. Anyway, I'm off. I'm leaving the country again. I got to travel again, so I'm off to Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia, and I'll be giving several lectures, or talks, or interacting with a large crowd for several days over there. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be back. I'll be gone, I think 6 days with the travel and stuff like that. And then I get back, and then I think I immediately have to go. What's the next event? I think New York after that to talk at an event in New York. And then from there, I have to go somewhere I can't remember. So it's a lot of things that are coming up. So anyway, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.